Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Young and the Restless channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The drama in Genoa City intensifies as Phyllis Summers finds herself locked in a desperate race against time, driven by a single urgent goal, tracking down Matt Clark before everything slips beyond her control. What began as a carefully managed situation quickly spirals into chaos when Matt defies her instructions and leaves his suite at the GCAC, forcing Phyllis into a frantic search across uncertain ground. Every passing moment raises the stakes higher because she knows her entire deal hinges on delivering Matt exactly as promised. Behind the scenes, powerful forces are already circling, with Victor Newman holding firm on his demands involving Newman Enterprises, while Nick Newman shows a willingness to negotiate in a different direction to resolve Phyllis's legal crisis without sacrificing the company. But none of those talks can matter if Phyllis cannot produce Matt, turning her mission into a high-pressure hunt where failure is not an option. Determined and increasingly cornered, she pushes forward with the intent to find him and bring him back under control before the Newmans close in. Meanwhile, tension brews within the Abbott family as Kyle Abbott grows increasingly uneasy about Jack Abbott's unfolding strategy and the ripple effects it could have on everything he is trying to rebuild in his personal life. Kyle is especially concerned about how Jack's ongoing plot might interfere with his efforts to repair his strained marriage, sensing that old conflicts could easily resurface if things spiral out of control. Jack, however, remains driven by a deeper vendetta against Victor Newman, still determined to make him pay for the damage he has caused over the years, no matter what it costs emotionally or strategically. Even as Kyle questions the risks, Jack appears unwilling to abandon the idea of using Patty Williams as part of his larger plan to strike at Victor, and that possibility only heightens Kyle's anxiety. He warns that any continued contact with Patty could become dangerous, especially now that Diane Jenkins Abbott seems closer than ever to a fragile emotional reconciliation. The tension between father and son builds as they wrestle with whether to continue down this risky path or pivot toward a safer, more stable future. At the same time, Diane experiences a powerful emotional turning point following her recent breakthrough, a moment shaped by lingering trauma from what happened on the yacht, but also by a growing desire to reclaim her relationship with Jack. Though she is still carrying pain and unresolved anger, her love for Jack remains strong enough that she begins to consider giving their relationship another chance. The weight of a disturbing nightmare lingers in her mind, pushing her toward a decision she might not have been ready to face just days earlier, as she begins to contemplate wiping the slate clean. One truth becomes undeniable for Diane. She does not want Jack moving on with Patty Williams or anyone else, and that realization may finally push her to voice her feelings directly. When she and Jack finally talk through their issues, there is a real possibility that she will admit her desire to rebuild what they once had. For Jack, the prospect of reconnecting with Diane feels like a long-awaited breakthrough, filling him with renewed hope, just as everything around him has felt increasingly unstable. As these emotional and strategic threads collide, the future in Genoa City grows more uncertain than ever. Kyle is cautiously optimistic about Jack and Diane's potential reconciliation, yet he cannot ignore the danger of Jack continuing his obsession with Victor while also trying to restore his marriage. The question becomes whether Jack will abandon his plan involving Patty entirely, or if he will instead try to delegate the risky elements to Kyle, as previously discussed. Despite the shifting dynamics, one constant remains: Jack's relentless determination to see Victor Newman suffer and to bring an end to his marriage with Nikki Newman, no matter what methods are required to achieve it. Elsewhere, Devin Winters prepares for an important meeting with Mariah Copeland at her mental institution, a developing storyline that promises emotional revelations and unexpected turns. With so many intersecting conflicts and hidden agendas unfolding at once, Genoa City stands on the edge of major upheaval, and the coming days are set to deliver surprising developments that no one will see coming. As the tension across Genoa City continues to build, the sense of instability only deepens beneath every conversation, every decision, and every hidden agenda unfolding in the background. Phyllis's frantic search for Matt Clark becomes more than just a mission. It turns into a ticking clock that threatens to collapse everything she has carefully positioned around herself. The longer Matt stays out of reach, the more vulnerable she becomes to both Victor Newman's expectations and Nick Newman's alternative deal, each pulling her in different directions with consequences she can't afford to ignore. Her urgency grows sharper, more desperate, as she pushes through every possible lead with the knowledge that one wrong move could destroy her chance at escaping her legal nightmare. At the same time, the uncertainty surrounding Matt's whereabouts casts a shadow over every alliance she has built, reminding her just how quickly control can slip through even the most calculated hands. Elsewhere, the Abbott family conflict simmers with a quieter but equally dangerous intensity. as Kyle Abbott finds himself caught between loyalty, caution, and the fear of watching everything he and Summer have struggled to rebuild fall apart again. Jack Abbott, fueled by long-standing resentment toward Victor Newman, stands at a crossroads where personal happiness and long-term revenge collide in a way that threatens to fracture every fragile piece of progress he has made with Diane. Even as the possibility of reconciliation with Diane begins to glow like a rare moment of hope, the lingering pull of his unfinished war with Victor refuses to fade into the background. Kyle's concern grows heavier with each passing moment, sensing that any continued involvement with Patty Williams could unravel the very reconciliation Jack is beginning to regain. Yet Jack's determination remains unshaken, as though the idea of Victor finally paying for his past actions has become too deeply embedded in his resolve to simply abandon. And in the middle of it all, Diane Jenkins Abbott stands at an emotional turning point that feels both fragile and transformative, as if she is balancing between healing and relapse into old pain. The trauma from the yacht incident still lingers beneath the surface, but her renewed love for Jack creates a competing force that refuses to be ignored. Her nightmare has stripped away some of her resistance, leaving her more exposed to vulnerability and more open to the possibility of rebuilding what was once broken. The thought of Jack moving forward with Patty Williams becomes increasingly unbearable for her, pushing her closer to finally confronting the truth of her feelings. As these emotional currents converge, Genoa City feels like it is holding its breath, waiting for the next decision, the next confrontation, the next revelation that could shift everything once again into chaos or redemption. The fragile momentum of Diane's emotional breakthrough continues to ripple through every corner of the Abbott household, reshaping conversations that were once dominated by suspicion into something far more uncertain and emotionally charged. Jack, still holding on to the possibility of rebuilding what was nearly lost on the yacht, finds himself torn between two opposing forces: his deep desire to protect what he has with Diane and his long-standing need to settle scores with Victor Newman. The idea of Patty Williams being part of any ongoing strategy now feels even more complicated, especially with Diane's emotional state becoming more open yet still vulnerable beneath the surface. Kyle watches closely, sensing that every decision Jack makes in the coming hours could either stabilize their family or send it spiraling back into chaos. What once seemed like a straightforward plan for revenge now feels like a dangerous balancing act where even the smallest misstep could destroy the progress Jack has just begun to regain in his marriage. At the same time, Phyllis Summers continues her relentless pursuit of Matt Clark, moving through Genoa City with an urgency that borders on desperation as she tries to recover control of a situation that is slipping further away with every passing moment. The GCAC suite stands empty as proof of her first failure, a stark reminder that Matt is no longer where she told him to stay, and that every second he remains free increases the risk of exposure. With Victor Newman still watching closely and Nick Newman prepared to maneuver his own version of a resolution, Phyllis finds herself trapped in a tightening web of competing agendas where trust is scarce and leverage is everything. Her search becomes increasingly frantic, fueled not only by the need to complete her deal, but also by the fear of what will happen if Matt reaches the wrong person before she does. Each unanswered lead pushes her deeper into uncertainty, forcing her to confront just how quickly her carefully constructed plan can collapse under pressure. Elsewhere, the emotional undercurrents surrounding Devin Winters and Mariah Copeland add another layer of intensity to the unfolding week in Genoa City. Devin prepares for his upcoming visit to Mariah at her mental institution, carrying with him a mixture of concern, hope, and quiet apprehension about what he might find when they finally face each other again. The weight of Mariah's situation hangs heavily over the meeting, promising moments that could shift understanding, reveal hidden emotional truths, or deepen the complexity of everything she has been enduring. As Devin steps closer to that encounter, the sense of uncertainty grows, reminding everyone that healing in Genoa City is never simple and that even moments of connection can carry unexpected consequences. With multiple storylines converging, Phyllis's dangerous chase, Jack and Diane's fragile reconciliation, Kyle's growing concerns, and Mariah's emotional crossroads, the city feels poised on the edge of a turning point where every decision carries the potential to reshape everything that follows. The pressure building across Genoa City begins to tighten into something almost suffocating as each character finds themselves pulled deeper into situations that refuse to resolve cleanly. Phyllis Summers' hunt for Matt Clark grows even more volatile as time slips away, leaving her increasingly exposed to the consequences of a deal that now feels dangerously fragile. Every failed attempt to locate him sharpens her anxiety, especially knowing that Victor Newman's expectations remain unshaken and that Nick Newman's alternative approach could shift the entire power balance at any moment. What once felt like a calculated risk now feels like a rapidly closing trap, where every direction she turns carries equal danger. The urgency in her search becomes more than strategy. It becomes survival as she races to recover control before someone else defines the outcome for her. In the Abbott household, the emotional stakes rise just as sharply, as Jack Abbott struggles to hold together two competing realities that refuse to coexist peacefully. On one side, there is Diane Jenkins Abbott, whose fragile but genuine willingness to rebuild their relationship offers him a rare sense of hope he has not felt in a long time. On the other side, there is his enduring obsession with making Victor Newman pay, a force that has shaped far too many of his decisions and continues to pull him back into dangerous territory. Kyle Abbott remains deeply unsettled by this tension, sensing that any continued involvement with Patty Williams could undo everything Jack is trying to restore with Diane. The fear is no longer abstract. It feels immediate, as though one wrong step could collapse the entire foundation of their family stability. Yet Jack's determination remains firm, suggesting that even reconciliation may not be enough to fully silence his desire for revenge. Diane herself stands in a moment of emotional clarity that feels both hopeful and precarious as she weighs the possibility of truly moving forward with Jack against the lingering shadows of past betrayal and trauma. The yacht incident still echoes in her mind, but her recent nightmare and emotional breakthrough have softened some of the walls she once built around her heart. Her growing fear of Jack reconnecting with Patty Williams pushes her closer to honesty as she considers finally admitting that she cannot bear the thought of losing him again. This emotional vulnerability marks a turning point, one where forgiveness and fear begin to intertwine in ways that could either heal the relationship or fracture it beyond repair. As she moves toward confronting Jack more openly, the atmosphere between them becomes charged with the possibility of either renewal or another devastating setback. Meanwhile, Devin Winter's upcoming meeting with Mariah Copeland continues to loom as a deeply emotional moment on the horizon, one that carries the weight of uncertainty and fragile hope. Mariah's situation at the mental institution remains a source of concern, and Devin approaches the encounter knowing that what he hears or sees could reshape his understanding of her condition entirely. The emotional distance between them feels both protective and painful, as if every step toward healing also risks reopening wounds that are still too sensitive to touch. Across Genoa City, these intersecting storylines begin to converge into a single, overwhelming sense of anticipation, as if the city itself is holding its breath before a series of irreversible choices are made. With Phyllis racing against time, Jack and Diane balancing love against obsession, Kyle warning of consequences, and Mariah's fragile state hanging in the balance, the stage is set for developments that will shift everything in ways no one can fully predict.